Cheers, guys. Epyx911, welcome to the Elitist Geek. Today I want to talk about game censorship. This is a subject that's pretty near and dear to my heart for a few reasons. The most obvious of which is I'm a lifelong gamer. And I'm 42 years old. Now, why the need to explain my age? Well, I just want to get across the point that I've been gaming for a fuck of a long time. I fell in love with computer games when I entered my first arcade, which was in the late 1970s. And playing the Pong consoles in the mid to late 70s when I was just a young boy. I fell in love with electronic gaming. And I strongly believe that video games aren't bound by age. And anybody who witnessed the hype that is Wii sales, which, let's face it, the whole premise behind the success of Wii, as in the console Wii sales, was buy-in, albeit a bit of a fad for a lot of those age groups, but a buy-in from all age groups made the Wii successful. It was the first console that projected itself as a device for all ages. Seniors in senior centers saw the Wii as a way to get some exercise, to do bowling or do different sport activities that they really couldn't do anymore. It was an activity they could share with their grandchildren. Parents, the same thing, but we'll get into that in a second, because despite the Wii's success, and ultimately which helped its demise, and what do I mean by that? Here's where I'm going with that. Yes, the Wii sold incredible numbers. Game sales never matched hardware sales. The two were not attached. They were not synonymous. Why? Well, because hype and being a device that all age groups could see themselves using, that sold the Wii. But it only sold it so far. Once the novelty wore off with a lot of these people who were really not gamers to begin with, certain games sold very well. The Wii Play games and exercise series sold fantastic because, older men and women used those applications. But regular hardcore games never sold well on the Wii because the market was really so much more than just the hardcore gamers. So the hardcore gamers maybe numbered, a few million, but the all-encompassing demographic was in the tens of millions. Whereas with the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, you tended to get more of an adoption rate with your games with the people who bought the hardware, because for the most part they weren't just casual gamers. They were gamers that enjoyed a lot of genres. Your general kind of gamer crowd, right? I know for me at my age, not many of my peers play video games. And I've always maintained that mine is the first generation that never had to be ashamed. We don't have to be ashamed of being gamers. My parents' generation, they had, childish hobbies, whether it's building model airplanes, whether it was, collecting war memorabilia, whether it was, playing cards being more socially acceptable. Having a train set and pretending you're a conductor was not generally accepted. It was a dirty little secret. It was something that, the men and women who did that in the 60s and 70s did once everybody was in bed. The lights were turned off. They could scurry to the basement and partake in their hobby. It certainly wasn't out in the open like it is now. Now, that's not to say that there isn't any discrimination lighthearted discrimination is what I'm talking about, that because we're certainly not hard pressed or hard done by, but I do get ribbed a lot by coworkers, by other people on my Facebook account that are in my age group and are shocked to hear that I'm still playing games. There's no fucking age limit to gaming. In fact, gaming is not only good for the hand-eye coordination, you get that old cliche, but it's fantastic for keeping mental stimulation in adults. And mental stimulation has proven to help fight things like dementia, absent-mindedness. Being strong, mentally is a benefit as you age. And video games are terrific for that. They're terrific for mental gymnastics. My reply is always, hey, it's my hobby. What do you do? And, invariably they'll come back with some kind of active hobby, which fair enough, right? But you'll sometimes hear things like TV. They make fun of you for playing a video game, but they'll watch TV. When TV, to me, is completely static one way. You watch. It's passive entertainment. You're not involved on any kind of physical or mental level, really. It's sit back and absorb entertainment. With a video game, you're being entertained in the same way that you are with a TV program or a movie, but you're also interacting with the program, interacting with the game. You're asked to solve puzzles. You're asked to do basic statistics, to do min-maxing. There's no fucking comparison as far as I'm concerned. So I always use that as an opportunity, not to be arrogant, not to be demeaning back or rude about it, but as an opportunity for me to educate those people. Because a lot of them did game. A lot of my generation gamed in the arcades. They had Commodore 64s, they had Ataris. But for a lot of them, becoming adults, meant that those pastimes were not necessarily shameful, but they were too associated with childhood. They felt maybe almost pressured into leaving those hobbies behind. I never have. I could give two shits what people think. I've had comments on some YouTube videos, some really rude ones, about acting my own fucking age, when that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm acting my age. I'm enjoying the same things I enjoyed when I was 17 or 18. I will fucking game until I can't hold a controller or a mouse or type on a keyboard. I will fucking game in the senior citizen center, if that's what it comes to, and I'm in one of those in my old age, I'll still be fucking gaming. I am a gamer for life, and that's not to say I don't have peers my age who, also don't game, of course. I tend to associate, my social circle tends to include gamers. So that's kind of something that's always bugged me. And that ties into the main topic, which I'm getting to after 8 minutes, because I think the background is important, and that's one of censorship. Because you see, a lot of the same people that are behind the censorship of video games are people who, when they were younger, and, played video games themselves. And you can see that today, because the baby boomers are still predominantly the group in power, right? And like I said, they were the last generation that, was really felt shame with their childhood hobbies, like the toy train set, and snuck down into the basement to do that. That's no longer the case, yet they are still the lawmakers. And where it's backward is in places like Australia, right? Because the baby boomers in power were for so long under the assumption that gaming is a childhood pursuit or the pursuit of adolescence, that they didn't even have a rating system that gave adults who gamed a benefit of the doubt. They had a system that basically went into the teens, but anything that was truly X-rated or considered mature adult content was classified under, and I'm going to find it here, refused classification, which was a simple way of saying they didn't have a rating for the game. So anything that was extremely violent was classified as that category and was therefore refused sale. That changed a few years ago. Australia added an 18 plus restricted. Finally, for fuck's sake, finally acknowledging that adults play video games too. But can you imagine how frustrating, how fucking absolutely frustrating that would have been for Australian adults prior to 2011 trying to buy a game like Grand Theft Auto and not being able to even purchase it in their own fucking country, a free Western democracy. And they didn't have a choice because the assumption was adults don't play video games. Well, they're fucking wrong, because there is a lot of my demographic. And I'm happy to say that, you know, the demographic below me, the 30-somethings now, even more than my generation, are playing games into adulthood. And I can almost guarantee you that the millennials, the current generation, when they hit their 30s and 40s, that stigma will be almost completely eliminated. It will be almost completely and universally accepted that adults play games too, and there won't be banning of games in Western countries, right? Don't even get me started on the whole China and their censorship. China has come a fuck of a long way since the early 70s, since the Cultural Revolution. They've opened up their economy. They still have a long way to go. They actually have more users of their search engine than Google does at any other country. But it's heavily censored. And that's the key difference. So yeah, to have a rating system be based purely on the thought process that children are the only gamers was just absurd. And I'm happy to report that Australia has kind of joined the modern world. And this is not a slam against Australia, because I think Australians themselves would agree with me that that was an archaic law. Like some of the laws against gay people in the States, whether that be sodomy legislation or anti-sodomy legislation, whatever. They're the byproducts of a long bygone age, and that's where we get in trouble with our legal system. Is very slow to adapt to the times, and whether that's copyright, rating systems, they're all very slow to catch up. I mean, look how long it took the music industry to finally come to the fucking conclusion that digital distribution works. We are now at a point in time where it's just 50 to even 50+% of the market compared to physical media. And had the music industry matured faster, we might have seen a whole different direction for services like Napster and what eventually became the first successful digital distribution for music, iTunes. We would have seen that a lot earlier. But history is what history was, right? It's already written, and we can't go back and change it. So I'd like to know what your guys' thoughts are. I know it's a bit of a deeper topic, but I think it's an important topic because there are plenty of adults like me who play video games, and I should never, ever not have the option to buy a video game because someone else deems it to be too violent or too controversial. Should never happen, ever. I'll make that decision, and I will make that decision for my children. Rating systems are great. They're guidelines for us as adults, because yes, my daughter's a huge gamer, but I still, and that's where it belongs, I still dictate at 18 years old, what I think she's comfortable with. And obviously at 18, I'm pretty damn lenient. She's heading off to university. She's an adult. She can get sent off to war technically. So obviously the reins are very loose, but there's still some controls in place. But honestly, once she's 19, yeah, I'll have rules if she's still under our roof. but those are the same types of rules that any adult would have to abide by. If I'm going somewhere, I tell my wife. It's just common courtesies. So let me know, guys, what are your thoughts on video game censorship? I'd love to know. Let me know below. Subscribe if you like these types of videos. I don't get deep like this too often. Usually it's game reviews and more lighthearted topics, but I will touch on important topics like this from time to time. So hit like, subscribe, or do not like if you don't like, and maybe disagree. Maybe you think censorship is a good thing, but please, if you do, leave me a comment. Let me know why. I'd love to discuss the topic. As always, cheers, guys. Till next time.